Hi, Victory Nation. Welcome to Inside My Victory, a podcast about the church, leadership, and creativity. And I'm Pastor Gene.
And I'm Pastor Kelly. And you can follow the podcast today in the notes we provide for you by going to my website, kellystickle.com.
And this is the final podcast in this series, not just a series, it's in our series.
This is our final podcast together. That is unreal after it's been 2.5, almost 3 years.
2.5 years that I've been doing it with you. It's been an amazing adventure. I mean, it's been awesome, fun.
Yeah, it's been so awesome. Thank you so much for all that you've contributed. You've done a lot of work to make this podcast work, and it's been a lot of fun, and we've covered a lot of territory.
So much subject matter that's unbelievable. I mean, really.
Yeah, and we're not erasing the podcast, so people can go and listen to this and follow up. And I'd encourage you to go back and re-listen to this. There's a lot of content that we've covered over the last 2.5 years.
And today we're going to review the top 5 podcasts.
Okay.
That we have done together.
All right.
Are you ready for that?
I am ready.
Okay. How are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to keep my emotions in check.
Don't make me cry. Okay, here we go. Let's just get on with it.
Let's get on with it.
Let's start with number 5 on the list, and that one is casting a compelling vision.
Wow. Casting a compelling vision. So that's interesting. These are the top 5 Inside My Victory podcasts ever, right?
Yeah.
This is what we're talking. Okay, casting compelling vision. That one is ironic because that one is an older one. And ironically, I believe that was one of the last podcasts of Inside My Victory that I did by myself. I think you came on right after that because in that one, I did that one right after we did a volunteer meeting where I taught on how to cast a compelling vision, which I had just done the night before. And we had introduced a third service and the need to hire an executive pastor, AKA you. And so the way to cast a compelling vision, we went through this and encourage people to go back and listen to this podcast. If you're a leader of any kind, you're going to have to cast a vision at some point. But the way to cast a compelling vision is number one, you got to have a problem to solve. Right. You need to define that problem. A lot of people make the mistake of casting a vision with, before defining a problem and giving answers to questions nobody's asking. So you got to have the questions. Yeah. So you got to define the problem. Number 2 is what's the consensus solution. So take the time to come to a consensus solution, not just your solution, but begin to invite and take the time as a leader. That means that we have to slow down sometimes and get a consensus with our team as to what the solution is to the problem. Yeah. It's easier to come to consensus when you got a clearly defined problem. Sure. And then number 3 is why should we take this on? Why us? Number 4 is why now? Is this something we take on now, or is this a problem we solve now, or is this one that we should solve down the road? So that's casting a compelling vision. Of course, there's a whole lot more in that one.
I know.
Well,
it'll be interesting to see what you do with number 4.
Okay, number 4.
15 surprising things that ultra-productive people do.
Wow. 15 surprising things ultra-productive people do. I remember that one. That is. Wow, that's in the top.
I don't remember that one. Did we do that together?
I don't know that we did. I think I probably did that one on my own. That came from an article that I read online, which there were some really surprising things people do. There's things in that list that aren't surprising. They set priorities, daily priorities. They set to-do lists. Right? They can beat procrastination. That's easy. But there's surprising things like, man, the ultra productive make it home for dinner every night.
Wow.
Right? So, we have this perception that they're workaholics and that they never do that, but no, they have priorities. And what I really liked about that whole article was there's the ultra productive have a discipline, not just in their work life, but they have a discipline in all areas of life, and they balance.
That's really good.
All areas of life. There's things that I learned out of that thing that I thought, man, I got to share this with everybody else out of that article. I like, they avoid meetings at all costs, the ultra productive. I like that. I like that they use notebooks. Man, That's key. I use Evernote, and because I can have it on on me at any time.
Sure.
But people have physical copies, whatever. But it's just a way to keep track of all the things coming at you. They ultra productive people check their email, once, twice, or at max 3 times a day. They don't allow that to distract you, right? So there's they say no to things. There's lots of different things, but there's 15 things ultra productive people do. And so I guess that's the number 4 one on there. So that means that there's ultra productive people out there that would like to know how to be more productive.
Well, and speaking of number 3,
okay,
working with difficult people.
Oh man, okay. Yeah, that one doesn't surprise me that's in the top 5 for
I remember
sure.
doing that one.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to do.
It was.
Yeah, because in the church world, we deal with difficult people. And if I remember right, in that podcast, you came up with very creative names for all these guys, right?
Cranky people.
Yeah. So you had guys like Disorganized Dora.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So somebody that you work with that is just not organized,
not together.
Kind of a space cadet, not organized at all. And so we taught things on how to deal with Disorganized Dora and
kinds of crazy names.
Critical Charlie. I think maybe Mabel. That's the one who can't make a decision, right? Critical Charlie, the one who criticizes everything, right? Fearful Frankie, that's some great. In a Slump Susie, that was my favorite. Yeah, I think in a slump Susie. In a Slump Susie.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I should go back and listen to that again.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Oh, number 2.
Okay.
7 growth points.
Okay, that's the first one. Or did we? And we've done that a couple times. So I wonder which one. But that was one of the first ones I did. 7 growth points is that's one of the more important things that I teach pastors, and that's helped me the most as a pastor, as a leader. We have this preconceived idea sometimes as pastors that church growth is just numerical growth, and we can get really discouraged or emotionally roller coasters if we focus just on numerical growth, because we go through seasons like summer, like now, where we can get depressed as pastors, where numerical growth doesn't always happen. And so the 7 growth points are, there's 7 areas of a church that have to grow for a church to consistently grow. And so the 7 growth points are: the leader has to grow. If I stop growing, the organization stops growing. The leadership team has to grow.
Right.
If the team stops growing, they become a lid or cap on the growth of their department or their and the church ultimately. The systems have to grow. Systems don't grow a church, but a lack of systems certainly can stop a church from growing. Numerical growth is one of those, of course. Financial growth, money again, having lots of money in the bank account is not going to guarantee growth, but a lack of it is certainly going to
stop the growth.
Hinder growth. The expectations have to grow. Again, focused on the example of Jesus, who couldn't do miracles in his hometown because their expectations were too low of him. They said, this is just Jesus and not the healing Messiah. And so they were limited there. And in the church, the same thing. If people come into the church, it's same old. The expectations are, it affects the anointing of what we're able to do.
It does.
So we need to grow the expectations. And then 7th one was grow your facilities. Again, having great facilities doesn't guarantee a church is going to grow. There's lots of empty facilities, gorgeous facilities all around
that are empty.
The world that are empty. That doesn't mean that a church is going to grow, but a lack of facilities is definitely going to hinder a church from growing. So yeah, that one is important. And then I always teach pastors, focus on your weak one.
Right.
Your weakest one, and bring that up to a strong level. And then,
good teaching.
And then you can focus on the next.
And believe it or not, the number 1 podcast is Stuck.
Stuck. Wow. Okay.
And I remember writing that.
Yeah.
There's a photo that I've seen many times of a turtle upside down on his back, and he can't get up. He's just stuck. And I think that was the inspiration for writing that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But people get stuck. They can't.
That was your first one, wasn't it?
I think it was way back. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of your first ones.
Early on. Yeah.
That is that's amazing. It speaks to the fact that a lot of
People are stuck.
feel stuck. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, there's a lot of great principles in that one, because we all end up, no matter how productive we are, we all end up stuck at some point or feeling bogged down. And so what do we do? And man, there were some great nuggets in that podcast on how we get stuck and how to get unstuck.
And just admit that you are stuck.
And that's step number one.
Because
Yeah.
we sometimes are in denial of that. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. There's some things that stand out in that one. I think we become stuck when we believe things are out of control, and we get sometimes that belief is not always accurate. We become stuck when we choose the wrong people on our team to lead, and what do we do then? Right, when we've got the wrong person on people, the bus. Yeah. What do you do? What happens when you lose trust is another one, right? Or lose momentum, another one, right? So yeah, there's a lot of really, really key.
And all these things you just talked about actually are really the answer to how to
get unstuck.
Avoid being stuck. Yes.
So good. Well, these podcasts are still available. And if you haven't listened to these, we'd really encourage you to go back and revisit these podcasts. Obviously, these are the top 5 of Inside My Victory. So these ones have been shared the most, which means they've resonated the most.
Awesome.
So that's really interesting. That's really cool.
So with your new podcast, and you're being very strategic,
yes,
as always, and it's really the main focus of your life is what you're going to go for in the next version of the podcast, right?
Yeah.
So give us the why behind that.
Well, I'll do it using one of the top 5 podcasts, right?
All right.
The problem that I feel called to solve is, again, I read an article a couple months ago where they said the average church in America sees 10 salvations a year. That's the average in America. And I'm thinking, man, I read that and that hit me really hard. And I thought, man, we are off mission. Why does the church exist? Well, Jesus gave us the Great Commission. That's the mission. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Pair that with the percentage of people that the church is losing in America.
Yeah, it is really alarming. So
wow.
when I read that, I thought, man, that's a problem I feel needs to be solved.
Absolutely.
And what's the consensus solution? We're like, well, I met as our team and sat down and we said, what are we most passionate about? What can we do? What are we most effective at? And a lot of people follow our leadership model. A lot of people follow some of our models, like how we do things, our methodologies. But the truth is, I've been coaching a lot of pastors and talking to a lot of leaders, and really, quite honestly, a lot of times pastors, they take what we're doing, and by the time they implement it, we've already moved on to something else. So I thought, I don't want to teach
the
methodology.
Trendy, no.
Because methodology changes so much.
But the why behind why we do is the key here.
The why behind what we do is key. And there's a leadership podcast or a dime a dozen. Of course, this one's going to have lots of leadership stuff in it, but I felt like, man, we need to reshift our focus a little bit. And so we met as a team and we're refocusing, and the solution is we're going to train pastors and churches and connect other pastors that are
that's
doing
so
this
powerful.
and
Yes.
creating a network of soul winning churches to really create a soul winning movement, because we got to get back on mission.
Mobilize that Christ is the hope of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. and we are why us? Well, we've had a track record of 8 solid years now of hundreds and hundreds of salvations a year. We average in the neighborhood of 55 to 60% of our average attendance in salvations a year. So that means that this year we're on track for just under 1,000 about that, and we are on track for that salvations in a year. And this is just normal. This has become normal. So why us? We've tapped into something and it's working. Why now? Man, the church needs hope. They need Jesus, and we got to get back on mission.
Stay on the mission to reach every available person
at every available time.
And by the way, I've had a good time doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything.
It's been really fun, but we have to be on this mission. We have to stay on this mission by every available means to reach people with the gospel of Jesus Christ.
To create churches.
Unchurched people love to attend.